here in Mombasa. We're trying to get investors to be able to support us in that space. And I'm also doing something, one moment, I'm also doing something about the airport. Let's be honest, Kenyans. Let's be honest. Yani, the airport we have in Nairobi is made of canvas, in the middle of tarmac. That is the arrivals. I mean, this is a temporary structure we put up almost, I don't know, 7 years ago. We don't, Ethiopia have a brand new airport. Rwanda have a brand new airport. And it is the reason why we need to work with investors to give us a new airport in Nairobi. I have seen many people saying, William Ruto wants to sell the airport. Am I a madman? You know, how do you sell a strategic national asset? You have to be insane. You know? So we must have the right investment for the airport. The airport is a strategic government asset, national asset. What we want to do in the airport is to work under the PPP program. And people must understand, PPP has the potential, public-private partnership, has the potential to bring in private sector money, blend it with public sector investment to be able to create an outcome that brings win-win. Let me tell the people of Kenya, for example, let me give you an example. We are all celebrating the Nairobi Expressway. It nowadays takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes from the airport to Serena. True? Do you know that that Nairobi Expressway was not built with the government money? It was built by the private sector under the private-public partnership arrangement. You know? And that is the model that we are going to use to extend the superhighway from Nairobi to Nakuru, to Eldoret, to Malaba. That is what we're going to use to do many of our roads. That's what we want to do with our airport. We want to work with the private sector for them to do 3 things that are critical for our airport: to build a new terminal, to build a new runway, and to make sure that we refurbish what we have and remove the canvas. Ile hema iko hapo ambayo sasa ni arrivals. You know, it's a very shameful thing. The airport we built in 1970, I saw the plaque there, Jomo Kenyatta. That so many, almost 50 years ago. Now, the capacity was 7 million passengers. Last year, we had almost 9 million passengers. We are actually 10 years behind schedule in modernizing our airport. Other countries are ahead of us. I want to persuade us as Kenyans. Let us not buy into fake news. Let us not buy into propaganda. There is no government that can sell a national asset, a strategic national asset like the airport. We are going to work in an open and transparent manner to make sure that we develop the airport using legal instruments that can be audited by Parliament and by other agencies to make sure that they bring value to the people of Kenya. So the same thing that Hersi is saying, to develop the infrastructure here. We do not have sufficient conferencing facilities. The KICC we have in Nairobi was built through Arambe, imagine, by KANU, those days. And then it was taken over by government. It is now 50 years old. We need a modern conferencing facility if Kenya is truly going to be a hub for tourism. We need one in Nairobi, we need one in Mombasa, and that's why we are working with the former Mombasa resort here to see how we can get investors to be able to develop new conferencing facilities. Okay. There is a lady there in uniform, some very nice uniform.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Lucy Wamaida Machogu, the Vice President, Kenyatta University. And I want to represent all students in the universities in Kenya because actually we were on the streets and we would wish to inquire some answers from you. First is to appreciate the government and the Ministry of Education because you've set an event on the 9th of August at KICD for all the student leaders and all the students to discuss on the funding model. So some of the questions I would wish to inquire answers from you, Mr. President. Number one, why did you come up with the funding model? How does the funding model work? Do you feel like the implementation of the funding is okay? What is the criteria used to group people to different categories? That is about the funding model. Number two, the accommodation prices in the universities. That is the hostel prices. They are very expensive for us to afford. Mr. President, what are you doing about this? We cannot be able to afford houses or hostels where we are living in universities. What are you doing, Mr. President, about this? Something else about the job opportunities. Once we graduate from the university, we are told, maybe when you go and seek for a job opportunity, we are asked to give a 5-year work experience or a 3-year work experience. Yet, we've just graduated. Where will we get the experience from if you are not given the chance to get the experience? So, Mr. President, how can you help us on that? Lastly, Mr. President, what are you doing to re-engineer the National Youth Council? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lucy. And by the way, you are very smart. Now, let me say, you've asked me two fundamental questions. The new universities funding model, why? Very important question, why? When I came into office, the universities were struggling. They had a 60 billion shilling debt. Many universities were paying their lecturers half the price, half the salary. It was near a crisis. And many vice-chancellors agree with me. So it became necessary. And you know, I have a history. Once upon a time, I was Minister for Higher Education. So I understand that space pretty well. And when I came into office then as Minister for Higher Education, I am the one who developed and created the space around our TVETs because there was a missing gap in our education system. I'm very proud that today our TVETs are a big portion of our higher education learning